So let's solve this numerical. There are still one or two important theoretical points left. I will tell you after solving the numericals. Okay. So now you see here there are four processes P1, P2, P3, P4, and the arrival time given as 0, 1, 2, 3, and the burst times are 5, 4, 2, 1. And also you see time quantum is given as 2 seconds. Okay, TQ is equal to 2 seconds. So we have to we have to find the waiting time and turnaround time, okay, for these processes with the help of round robin algorithm. So let's see how. We have to draw the Gantt chart, and also remember from the last class that I told you that round robin algorithm uses circular queue data structure. So you just see how. First I will draw the Gantt chart. Is it visible? Okay, little bit. Okay. So you see. Here I should separate this. Yes. So now you see at 0th second which process came? P1. P1 came at 0th second. So P1 will be, CPU will be given to P1. Okay. Now what is the time quantum? 2 seconds. So P1 will run for 2 seconds. P1 will run for 2 seconds. So now you see within these 2 seconds how many available processes we have. You see P1 is already available, so I will write here P1. After that, at t is equal to 1 second, at 1 second, P2 arrived, so I will write here P2. And at t is equal to 2 second, here P3 arrived. Okay, we have 3 processes now in the queue. This is a queue. Okay, here I am assuming it's a queue. So now, is the task of P1 over? No, because the burst time of P1 is 5 seconds, but it has executed till 2 seconds. So what will happen? 3 seconds is left for P1 now. Since the task of P1 is not yet over, so here I will remove the P1 and P1 will come and sit here. Fine. Now you see, after P1, P2 will be, CPU will be given to P2. So here I will write P2. Just listen carefully. Just listen carefully, and after the completion of this video, you just try to do it yourself. It would be much better for you. Then only you can analyze whether you have correctly understood this or not. Okay. So now you see. Now CPU will be given to P2. So yes, because P2 is after P1. So now obviously P2 will execute for 2 seconds. Yes, P2 will execute for 2 seconds. So how much time left for P2? 4 minus 2, 2 seconds left. So now you see within this time, any process arrived? Yes, P4 arrived at 3rd second. So I will write here P4. Why? Because P4 arrived at 3rd second at t is equal to 3. Here P4 arrived. So now when the time quantum expires, then P2 will come and sit here. Why? Because P2 is still available, because still 2 seconds is left for P2. That's why. Now you see, now CPU will be given to P3. Okay, because after P2, P3 is there. So here I will write P3. And you see the burst time of P3 is 2 seconds, and time quantum is also 2 seconds. So P3 will run for 2 seconds. P3 will run for 2 seconds, and it means what? P3 will be completed, and P3 ran for the time quantum, and since the burst time and time quantum is equal, so now P3 has completed. So here I will remove P3. P3 is done. Okay. So 4 to 6. P3 is done. So again after P3, which process is there? P1 is there. So here I will write P1. Okay. Now you see the P1, the burst time of P1 is 3 seconds, but time quantum is 2 seconds. So P1 will run for 2 seconds. It means what? 6 to 8. And here you see that yes, how much time is left for P1 now? 3 seconds were left. P1 already executed here 2 seconds, so only 1 second is left for P1. So again P1 will come and sit here. See, so after P1 we have P4 here. After P1 we have P4 here. So you see the burst time of P4 is 1 second, which is just less than time quantum. So it means what? P4 need not run for 2 seconds because it has only 1 second is left for burst time. So P4 will run for 1 second and its task is over. So 8 to 9, P4 will run for 8 to 9 and P4 is done. So here I will remove P4. Okay. Now after P4 again we have P2. So here I will write P2. So you see the burst time of P2 is left as 2 seconds and the time quantum is also 2 seconds. So P2 will run for 2 seconds and after running for the time quantum, P2 is also done. So here I will write here 9 to 11, and since P2 ran for 2 seconds, so here P2 is done. So here I will completely remove P2. Okay. Now you see here P1 is left. So how much remaining time is left for P1? Only 1 second. So P1 will run for only 1 second. 12. So now you see the Gantt chart is completed, and you see how with the help of, so how you see a queue data structure is used in this algorithm, because with the yes, and since P1 is also completed, so because with the help of queue data structure we can easily track now which process will be given to CPU. Okay, so in this manner we will solve round robin algorithm. So now let's calculate the waiting time, turnaround time. So now let's calculate let's write the completion time here. Completion time, turnaround time, and waiting time. Okay. So now here I am writing it properly. Okay. Five, 4, 2, 1. It's 5, 4, 2, 1. 5, 4, 2, 1. Okay. Now, so what's the completion time of process P1? Just start from here, 12 seconds. So here I will write 12. What's the completion time of P2? 11. Completion time for P3? 6. And completion time of P4 is, I guess, yes, 9. Just wait. So now let's calculate turnaround time. What's the formula of turnaround time? Completion time minus arrival time. Fine. So let's calculate the turnaround time for process P1. It will be 12 minus 0, 12. For P2, it will be 11 minus 1, 10. For P3, it will be 6 minus 2, 4. And for P4, it will be 9 minus 3, 6. So now we will calculate the waiting time. Let's calculate the waiting time. Formula for waiting time is what? Turnaround time minus burst time. So let's calculate here the waiting time for process P1. 12 minus 5. Here I write the formula. Turnaround time minus burst time. Okay. So 12 minus 5, 7. 10 minus 4, 6. 4 minus 2, 2, and then 6 minus 1, 5. So here you see it's how we have done the whole calculation. So it's a very important topic, round robin algorithm, and I think it's somewhat difficult from, I would not say it's difficult, but rather it's more interesting from rest of the algorithms. And also you see there are some I left some important theoretical points for this round robin algorithm that I will tell you now. You see, in this algorithm, actually these algorithms are practically implementable, unlike shortest remaining time first, because in that case you have just before the execution of the process you have to know the burst time, and it was very difficult to predict. Okay, although there was some algorithms were there, but still it was not practically implementable. But RR algorithm is practically implementable because it doesn't depend on the burst time. Okay, here every process will be will run for its time quantum. So here I should write here. So I think, should I rub this? Okay. So just note down these important points. Here, RR algorithm is practically implementable. Practically implementable. Okay. Another thing is that it does not depend on burst time. Okay. Now, there is a question, what about time quantum? You see, if the time quantum is very large, then what will happen? If the time quantum is very large, then RR algorithm will degenerate to FCFS algorithm. Why? Because you see, in FCFS algorithm, all the CPU are assigned to all the processes as per their arrival time, and here also the same thing is happening. As per the arrival time, the processes are so the processes are being assigned the CPU. Okay, so if time quantum is very high, then RR algorithm will be converted to first come first serve. RR algorithm will be converted to first. So say the time quantum has become, suppose, 6 seconds. So it means what? All the processes will have to run for at least 6 seconds. So process 1 will complete its 5 seconds. It doesn't need to run for 6 seconds. Okay. After that, when process P2 will come, process P2 will run for 4 seconds. It means what? Once the process is taking the CPU, it will fully complete. After that, the CPU will be given to other process. After that, the CPU will be given to next process. So if the time quantum is very high, then RR algorithm will be converted into FCFS algorithm. So here we should take care of the fact that the time quantum should not be very high. Okay. And also the another problem is that if time quantum is very less, then what's the problem? There will be more number of context switch. Okay. Context switch will be more. And also, this is also not desirable. We don't want too many context switches, because I already told you that whenever a CPU switch from one process to another process, then lots of savings have to be done, and these are considered as overhead. Okay, we actually don't want these things to happen, but unfortunately, these things happens when CPU switches from one process to another process. Like program counters have to be saved, some registers have to be saved. These are actually overhead. Okay. So these are some important points of round robin CPU scheduling algorithm. And also one thing is there. Okay, I will tell you later. Okay. Yes. Also one thing is there. Suppose if all the processes arrive at the same time, maybe all the processes arrive at 0 second. Then what will happen? Then you just take the process as per the process ID. Like P1 will be given, because suppose here you see, here suppose the arrival time is 0 for all the process. Then what will happen? Then it means what, all the process have entered the ready queue at the same time. Then what you will do? You just give the CPU as per their process ID. It means what? P1 will be given CPU first. After that, P2 will be given CPU. After that, P3 will be given CPU. After that, P4 will be given CPU. Okay. For this condition, don't look at the arrival time, because arrival time is same for all. Okay. So I think now RR algorithm is clear to you. We will solve some more examples. Okay. But now after this, I will come to priority scheduling algorithm. Okay. Thank you.